Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Beats. I am your host, Kelly Kennedy, and I am very fortunate to be able to share my tribe as I travel across the globe and meet incredible scientists and doctors and all sorts of practitioners and continue to expand that tribe to help engage and encourage and empower you to learn how your body really works. Because what we know from our heart to yours is that you have all the innate wisdom inside you to heal, and that our job is naturally oriented therapists, medically enlightened doctors and specialists available here at Not Meds Global. The Beats podcast is about helping you understand that you have that power inside and what you need to do to help engage it, to constantly upregulate your ecosystem. Thank you so much for being part of our community. If this resonates with you, please go ahead and share this episode. We are always open to your comments and your questions as always. And welcome back to this week's episode of The Beats. Welcome back to The Beats with Kelly Kennedy, and I seriously hope you're watching this one today. If you're not, you need to go directly to the audio or the visual podcast on Not Meds Global, because I have one of my greatest friends and colleagues, Dr. Allison Edmonds, back here at The Beats joining us, and we're kicking this month off in November. It's all about kids and raising healthy humans. She just wrote a book we're going to talk about. But Allison is wearing a pirate hat and a patch, and I'm wearing rainbow glasses because we got to remember that we got to keep it fun and light, because this is going to get not so light pretty quick. And we have some serious things abreast and ahead of us to really create healthy humans, but we wanted to keep it light and fun. So from our heart to yours, here's The Beats today with Dr. Allison Edmonds. And Dr. Allison, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything about your pirate hat?
Well, other than I'm looking awesome right now. I love that you said we just have to keep it fun. That's what we say every day in the office. Like, and we say our prayer and Dan's like, and let's keep it fun. Because if it's not fun, we're just not going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Because basically we're just 5 years old at heart, and we just like to run and play and have fun. That's really what we're about. So We're going to dive in and get a little serious. We're going to take our little eyeglasses off and our little pirate masks here for you all. But in all serious and honesty, Dr. Allison has written a book that's coming out very soon at a theater near you. No, it actually is coming out when we recorded this. It wasn't out yet, but it will be out as of tomorrow. And yes, How to Grow a Healthy Human is the title. I'm trying to figure out how to get off my glasses. It's pretty funny.
Oh, you taught me.
I know. And now I'm like, how did you get that off so darn fast? There we go. Okay. So what we want to do is really, I'm going to let her lead today because, you know, she's the stroke today and I'm just in the back of the boat. If you don't know a rowing analogy, you don't know Allison and I. So she's going to stroke for everybody and teach you a little bit about what's the status and why she wrote a book of how to raise a healthy human. And we are so appreciative of this being our month of helping get our, like I said, our next generation to be healthier, which is of course near and dear to my heart, not only as a practitioner, but particularly as a mom. And Allison is also a mom. And so what do you have to share with us today, Dr. Allison?
Well, I'll show you the cover because
oh, it's a picture of you. It's like, oh,
this is Titus. And this is why we do these things, right? He's 3.5 now, but really, I'm a chiropractor by trade, and I did a lot of additional training in pediatrics, and I love taking care of kids and pregnant ladies. Just taking care of the mechanical component is so beautiful to watch a person's nervous system then really just do what it's designed to do, which is heal. And so that was a way that I was able to help people facilitate their healing. And I tell you what, we just have more and more sick kids coming in, more and more sick kids. And the statistics are, and this is where it gets really deep and really hard and why we all tear up. But this is so sad. This is the first generation of children not expected to outlive their parents. And if that doesn't punch you in the gut, in the face, I mean, it's terrible, but unfortunately, this is the world that our kids are growing up in. We are living in the most toxic generation ever known to mankind. And a lot of that starts even before the child is born. So I want to challenge you guys, maybe click on the link that is there, or go to YouTube and look up 10 Americans. The Environmental Working Group did a phenomenal study, and they studied 10 Americans. And they looked for pesticides and flame retardants and all kinds of damaging chemicals that they knew to have neurotoxic effects. They have cancerous effect. I mean, dramatic problems are caused by these chemicals. And they found all these chemicals in these 10 Americans. And then he said, you know, even the pesticides, like they weren't farmers, they weren't this, they weren't that. They took all of the 10 samples from cord blood of babies that were still in the womb. And they found over 287 chemicals. So what we know is our child's health starts way before they're even conceived. So it really has been my mission and drive now to create awareness of that so that we can prepare our body to grow a healthy human. And that's really where this started.
So let's just unpack that and let that land for a minute. So essentially, we are now giving birth to a generation that will not outlive their parents statistically for the first time ever. We are supposedly smarter than all of our predecessors, yet we are not using that intelligence somehow because our children are becoming sicker instead of healthier. And so when they did this study of 10 Americans, regardless of their industry of which they found themselves in, they had all these environmental toxins from pesticides, insecticides, glyphosates, and all the other things. And then they went so far as to take the core blood of infants, the core blood when the child is still in utero. So taking blood from the placenta, and 287 chemicals were found in that core blood. That's a lot. So thank God we have people like Dr. Allison raising awareness and coming up with solutions. So the point is that we want to create an environment in our bodies that if we're becoming pregnant, that we get that as clean as possible, as healthy as possible, and not only for ourselves, but for the human that we're going to be growing. Well, yeah. You all are going to be growing. Kelly is done growing humans. Everybody else wants to grow humans. So, yes. So where do we go now? Now we know devastating news. What else do we need to know before
I think the first place we go is we kind of check in and we're like, okay, well, how do I know if I have those chemicals? Number one, maybe you're sick. Maybe your energy is terrible. Maybe you're stressed. You know, your adrenals are off. Maybe you have thyroid condition. Maybe you have diabetes. Maybe you have a condition and maybe you don't. That is not necessarily an indicator of what toxins are in your body. And so testing is really important. I don't know if you want to dive into that, but proper testing is so important. Typically when something's going on and you go to your general practitioner, there's a panel that they'll run, but that's not always giving you the answers that you fully need. Let's see. Can I show you a picture of a cell?
Oh, yes, please do. Geek Kelly would love to see a picture of a cell.
Okay, I knew it. Okay. And
can you share screen still? Is it still up? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Ooh, can you see that?
God love her. Look at her.
Wait a second.
Look
there
at
we
that.
go. Okay. Can you see this cell
sure
right
can.
Here? Yes. Okay. So when we talk about toxins, we know they're creating inflammation. And one thing to understand is it's not like inflammation, like you sprained your ankle and it just swelled up. I mean, sometimes we feel inflamed, right? And we can't lose weight and things like that. But inflammation is happening at a cellular level. So when we're talking about all the toxins, which you hear all the time, that was like the number one Googled word in 2018, I think, to toxins. But they're stored in fats, and the membrane of every one of our cells is made of fats. And so here's a healthy cell. And
so the membrane is the thing around the cell, the outside of the cell. It's like the package that the cells inside of, just because not everybody's a science geek. So we speak that maybe some people don't understand. And I'm really present to making sure they understand that, because this is what she's about to tell. I already know what she's about to say because it's so key. And it's why, go ahead, tell them about the membrane.
Okay. No. And I mean, pull those things out anytime, because sometimes role. So, okay, the membrane is really important because it has these tiny little receptors on it, right? And then outside the cell, we have our hormones. So insulin, T3, T4, all of your sex hormones, leptin, very important things that have to bind to a receptor and get their message in the cell for the cell to function properly, to do whatever it is designed to do. We also have little energy factories, our little mitochondria. They're like giving off a residual toxin that has to get out of the cell. So there's a constant passing of things. Now, what happens when you're exposed to toxins in your air, water, food, and everything else, this membrane gets inflamed. And for the sake of time, just imagine that membrane, like these two lines, it gets inflamed, it will block out these receptors. So it's like, here's the receptors on the cell. It gets so swollen, it blocks them. Okay. So what happens is
if you're looking at the picture, the membrane is the circle and the receptors are the little antennas that are sticking out of it, the little lines. And those are like the keyholes to go, hey, I'm looking for certain things. But if this membrane is inflamed, it'll go and like almost absorb the receptors, if you will, so that the body can't see those. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So,
she's really smart. I'll make it dumb.
I don't know if you can see it. So the can you see that at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so the membrane inflames, it blocks the receptors. So you're like, hey, I'm just not really feeling well. Something's a little bit off. So you go and you get your blood work and they say, oh, look, your insulin looks good. Your T3, T4, everything looks good, right? But what's happening is they're not getting their message in the cell because of the inflammation. And so that's like really key foundational point to understand. So when we're talking about getting these toxins out, we also have to do some of the repairing. So let me ask you, let's see. Do you want me to dive in, maybe like just give you some tools like, hey, here's the top 4 things that you can really kind of tackle with the toxins or talk about?
Well, yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So what causes a lot of this inflammation, right? Like people are like, well, is inflammation, like you said, there's some good inflammations, like I sprained my ankle and it creates its own cast, but a chronic inflammation, what causes chronic inflammation? And we know inflammation causes illness. I'd say 2018, it was probably toxins. And in the last 2 years, I'd say inflammation is probably the most Googled word out there is inflammation, and inflammation can be caused by many things. So where would you start and what does cause inflammation?
So on a much deeper level, we absolutely know that we can have potential hidden infections. We have heavy metals. We have mold exposures. We have things on a deeper level. But we also know that things like pesticides, glyphosate, let me show you this just picture. Actually, it might be backwards on here. I hope not. Is it backwards?
No, it's not. No.
Okay. So food, water, plastics, and dental. That is the 4 things that we really broke down in the book, because there's a million things out there. And if you can tackle those 4, it's going to be instrumental. So with food, I'll just kind of draw. Is that okay? Or is this
Yep,
a little bit?
sure.
Okay. It needs to be organic, non-GMO, no added hormones, and it needs to be nutrient dense. So one of the cool things about writing a book is, as I was going through the resources, like you just end up researching 20 things more than you did before. And there was a study done in Denmark, and they looked at 950 women and they tested their urine for pesticides. They, documented the amounts, and then they followed their children until they were like 2 to 4 years old. And they made note of whether those children had been diagnosed or exhibited symptoms of ADD and ADHD. And what they found was a direct correlation to the higher pesticide levels. Apologize about that. The higher pesticide levels to those children then having ADD or ADHD. And so so
the moms had high levels of pesticides and then the kids had ADHD, just for clarity, because there was a little noise in the background. So just let's verify that. So 950 women from Denmark were tested. They had high pesticide levels circulating in their blood system. And then their kids were diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes.
All of them?
There was a direct correlation. So they said, okay, yes. Yeah. So the women that had the higher pesticides were much more likely to have children diagnosed with those things. And what they were really explaining and looking at was how a pesticide, like when you're getting non-organic things, or even some of the organic things, if you're not washing them properly, we know But as those pesticides, even though they're passing through the urine, they're still doing damage on the way through your body. So they're affecting the DNA, whether some people talk about how the codes can get turned on and off. Some people talk about how it's just like a dimmer switch, but bottom line is pesticides are affecting our DNA and our future children's DNA. So if you're thinking about growing a human, go organic, absolutely, with everything. I really was surprised too, when I just started looking up organic versus non-organic in YouTube and, just various places, how there's so much misinformation on that. Like, I just kind of thought, oh yeah, organic, it's the world we live in. But it's not everyone's reality. So I just want to stress the importance of, hey, make it your reality if you're going to grow a little human.
And there are different levels of organic, and maybe we can do a show about that at some point. USDA organic, non-GMO, like all these things. Natural, just throw it out. Natural means nothing. But, just know that organic is a label that has also been manipulated.
That's a good word.
And you've got to really be a skilled reader. Andrea, her good friend and mine, and I went to the grocery store last night. And it took us way longer than it would take two people to walk through a grocery store. And we were even at Whole Foods, and she's showing me something, I'm showing her something. And then we would look and we're like, yeah, but we can't do that because it's got sunflower, or, oh no, we can't do that because it's got this. And, it's like, it takes longer, no doubt. But then you just find your foods. And then we noticed that we were putting the same thing. I was like, oh yeah, we eat those chips. Oh yeah, we do that. Oh yeah, we do that, because that's what's work. That's what's clean. That's what we know. We've already done the research. We've read the labels, but be diligent in reading labels and then understanding what's on the label.
Yeah. And it's so worth it. You get a rhythm, and then it's just, what you get. And I think the coolest thing is we have the opportunity to teach our kids, because let's say you have 5, 6, or even 16-year-olds that don't want to change up their food and things like that. We do know that if something is genetically modified, it's going to contain glyphosate. And we know that glyphosate is driving heavy metals and other toxins to a deeper level, that is really damaging our brains, like brain fog we all joke about, but it's like legit. And when your teenagers have brain fog and can't get through high school, it's escalating much faster than before.
Because it's all about regulation, right? It's the body can no longer regulate for the assault, the burden that we're putting it under. And what Dr. Allison is saying is essentially start cleaning up now, get organic, so that at least you're not putting in so much that your body has to regulate for, because the food is easy to deal with. You've got all sorts of environmental other toxins that you're up against. And so you can clean up the food. That's the easiest. Once you get into a rhythm, we know it's not easy in the beginning, but it will get easier.
Yes. Okay. So the next one is water. You want to free from heavy metals, fluoride, and chemicals. So the reason we broke down these, like the food, water, and the plastics, your personal care products, we know that there are just toxins everywhere, but these are the things you're putting in your body all day long, like all the time. So the most frequent exposures. But this is really, really important. I would encourage you, if you're just to have your water tested. Wherever, like if it's your home or your office that you're drinking most of your water, have it tested. Doctor's Data has a really great one, but I'm sure there's a lot of great ones online too. Maybe you have one. After going to Kelly's, I got a little baby Berkey for my office. So that's a really practical.
Yeah. And inexpensive, I do suggest you remineralize and restructure. Of course, we just spent a month on water in October and talking about all different types of water, but variety is the key, and water is so key. And, I'm a water freak. I've been a water snob my whole life, I think. And there's so much to water that we could talk about, but I totally agree with Dr. Allison that it's one of the most frequent things that we expose ourselves to, and we got to be mindful of that. And so any other, like for our kids too, with water, like, what do you recommend we feed our children? I know we're not there yet. We're talking about getting the body ready, but it freaks me out when people are like, oh, I'll have a Coca-Cola for my kid. And, this Gatorade, like my kids in football, and they gave all the kids Gatorade. And I was like on the sidelines the other day, I was like, why is Silas drinking an orange Gatorade? He saw Ian was like, oh, one of the moms brought it and they gave it to all the kids. And I was like, oh, okay, he's working out his liver then today. And well, that's okay. It's just one Gatorade for his whole life. He's 8, and I noticed he only drank a little bit of it and he didn't finish it.
Probably tasted like syrup to him.
Oh, I'm sure it tasted disgusting, but yeah. Anyway, water is huge. What kind of water? What's the quality of the water? Cold water, hot water, like, is there water in my iced tea? Does that count?
I don't know that this is valid, but I heard someone one time say that if there's anything else in your water, your body's going to process it like food. Like your blood sugar is or your insulin is going to go up. It's going to just process it like that. So I would not count your tea as your water or anything else. And a lot of other substances too, like a Coke and by Coke, I just mean a pop, right. But any kind of soda, whatever you say over there in PA, but it actually can further dehydrate you. So we actually did a simple, and I hope this is good since I'm dropping the name, but an Aquasana whole house filter with a UV light and all that shenanigans. Cause I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to put my baby in the bathtub. I don't want him soaking in pesticides because we live in the middle of cornfields, and it's inevitable. So cool to move on.
Yep. Cool. Next.
Okay. Well, I'm going to change it up. We're going to talk about dental first, and then we're going to come back to plastics because that's going to lead into hormones, which I can't wait to just kind of blow your mind with the hormone thing.
Good.
Not your mind, but I'm sure you know most of it.
I'm sure mine too. Yeah.
Okay. So the dental part, this is so important because you will donate half of your metals to your children, like the ones that you grow in your womb. And they're passed for 4 generations. So you got your mamas and your grandmas, for 4 generations. And so if you've had any vaccinations, including flu shots, if you have let's say silver fillings, sorry about that.
They're really amalgam.
Yes.
The way calling them silver is crazy.
Okay. Yes. Amalgam. But if you open your mouth and they are silver, yes.
Silver in color. Yeah.
Yes. Also depending on what's in your water, fluoride will leach lead out of the pipe. So you can have lead in your body from that or whatever your occupation is. If you have heavy metals in your body, you're going to donate them to your future children. So cleaning up your mouth is such an important component pre-pregnancy. I actually I got very sick when I got some of my final amalgams. I had 9 amalgams. I was so sick and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. And I had a really amazing turnaround as I got those removed. And since then I have been taking care of patients. I mean, it's beautiful to watch someone with severe anxiety, like debilitating, can't do their job anymore. She was an attorney. I'll just use one story that actually I shared in the book. She was an attorney, a mom of 2, married, like all these great things. And her anxiety just kept building. We were working on some detox, really kind of, sorry about that.
It's okay. No worries.
We were working on some detox, kind of mild, but it wasn't until she had the amalgams removed and did some more detox that she fully regained her health. I mean, the kids got their mom back. It was amazing. But again, even if you're not sick from those, it's really, really powerful to get those out and clean up that residual stuff before growing a human. So the other thing with the dental is hidden infections. So this is something like if you've had a root canal or cavitations, those hidden infections can kind of fester in there, decreasing your immune system, decreasing the way that your body responds to all of their toxins, really. So having those checked out, and I know I'm just kind of firing a list at you, but the other thing that has recently come to mind is that the sealants that they put on your teeth contain BPA. So let's dive into the plastic section. If you have been trying to get pregnant, hopefully one of the first things that pops out, even of general practitioners or people that are not that aware of toxins, they say, oh, well, quit drinking out of plastic water bottles. And everything says BPA free, right? BPA free everywhere, which unfortunately we know now that they're, slightly modifying that polymer so that it's not BPA, but it's still another damaging plastic. So what happens is the plastics, when they go in your body, they're mimicking our hormones. And so plastics can booger up your hormones. I mean, I want to say faster than anything, but let's be honest, we don't really know that for sure. Do you have something to say about that?
Well, always, but when do I not have something to say? It's very hard for me to keep my mouth shut when in these podcasts.
And this is not a Gatorade. This is like,
yeah, just so anybody watching or drink a red liquid. But plastic, they're manipulating that, but there's so much plastic in so many ways. And
I just drank out of plastic. It was an emergency situation. I need some electrolytes because I was like, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
But everything in moderation. And, you can drain anything out. It's I have a plastic water bottle, then I'm going to refill it up with other water. And then I'm going to put it in the freezer so it's nice and cold. And it's, there's a lot to that, but there's plastic in just more than that. I mean, there's plastic water jugs and plastic in the milk that people drink, which
there's plastic in our babies' diapers.
Yeah. And we're absorbing it through our skins. And there's so much to cleaning up the environment so your body doesn't have to deal with it is really what it boils down to, right? Like you are a filter. So you can either buy a bunch of filters or you can limit what your body has to filter.
Yeah. So, is it okay if I show my test now? Would that be?
Yeah, sure. So at this point though, let me just summarize what you're sharing.
Yeah.
Testing is really key, whether you're testing your water, you're testing your body, see what your baseline is, see what you're starting with, and then find the solutions that will clean that test up. And by cleaning up our environment, the things we're most exposed to, which is our food, our water, dental materials, as well as plastics. And now she's going to show you some evidence of this because Dr. Allison has become aware of all this. And so she wants to grow another healthy human. So she fasted furiously to figure it out on the better, Titus is beautiful and healthy and all that, but we all optimize constantly. The more we know, the more we want to implement. And so she wanted to implement even a more healthy human than Titus is. And so here we go.
So we talked about the pesticides being eliminated in the urine, even though they're doing the damage on the way through. The plastics are actually staying in our body. So the PFOAs are like, I don't know if, I don't want to say the whole word because I'm going to booger it up, but the PFOAs, the things that are found in nonstick cookware.
Yeah.
Okay. So those are also very damaging. So, and parabens. So I have this environmental toxin test, and I did this test it's a urine test, looking for plastics and phthalates and all kinds of things, even glyphosate. And then Titus was potty training at the time. And I was like, well, I better just test Titus too. And it was really eye-opening to see where he was at with a lot of those things. And then you can kind of take it two ways as a parent. And one, you're like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And I'm racking my brain. I'm like, how is he getting phthalates? And then I realized we just started wearing pull-ups that were not the, organic, amazing, natural ones he was wearing. And I found out there was phthalates in that brand of pull-ups. And I was like, I mean, he doesn't drink out of plastic or eat out of plastic, it's just, you're racking your brain. But the thing that I think is most powerful about testing is coming to a place where you can be aware, receive the information just as information, and then create an action step, and not as condemning or anything like that. So this is my personal test that I'm going to share with you.
That's very kind. No HIPAA law broken here. It's her own test.
That's great. So can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So you can see on the far right, it says 6/11/2020. And this DMTP and the triglycerin, I mean, these were super high in the red. The other red one is the NAHP. And then there are descriptions of this, but this phosphate, this top one right here, is an organic pesticide. So I then looked into washing my vegetables in a brand new way. And that is definitely important. The triglyceride, well, I don't need to explain what each one of these are, but bottom line is we can look at the glyphosate, the phthalates, parabens. Again, they've found parabens in tumors that they've extracted from breast tissue. the methyl, the para, the butyl, anything that ends in paraben on the end of your stuff, throw it in the trash. Like, see ya. It just needs to be gone, because I haven't touched anything that I know of with parabens in at least over 15 years. And I still had residual levels, look, of 610. So here's the cool part. I went to see Kelly. I did art, like I did our true cellular detox. I did so many amazing things. Honestly, anything I could get my hands on, anything that I could do to get the toxins out of my body at a deeper level. This is important. It wasn't just like, some cilantro and chlorella and call it a day. It was all the things. Sometimes it takes all the things. And so then you can see the current levels. Some of these I've almost cut in half, specifically this other pesticide, which had direct implications on hormones. The BPA, you can see, that went down just a little bit.
Literally everything is down. And what was the time frame of this test, Dr. Allison?
This is about 9 months.
9 months.
Yeah.
So, well, that's an interesting time frame, 9 months. So knowing that the child absorbs half of our toxins for 4 generations, if you had been pregnant when you started that, your baby would have absorbed all those toxins that you just got rid of.
Yeah, this is
Let
true.
that land for a minute, folks. Because babies are amazing, but they're parasites, number one. And number two, they take everything from us, and they take everything, good, bad, and ugly. So if she had gotten pregnant when she started that in June of 20, the half of toxins that came out through her pee, her poop, her sweat, and her breath, and I believe also the bleeding of the menstruation cycle is a way the body detoxifies, but it's not science, it's my theory. So all of those things that she did to increase her drainage, to increase her cellular drainage, or her cellular detox rather, and lymphatic drainage, essentially took half of her toxic load. Now, if she gets pregnant, when she gets pregnant, that baby will have half of the amount of those. And listen, do you hear? The baby's still going to have some toxic load. There's no way to get around it at this point in time right now. We're changing that all together as a community, because we're waking people up. We're making them aware that what we put in and on our body has to be filtered out. And so we're going to stop living any way other than a biological lifestyle, so that we upregulate our ecosystems all the time. Yet right now in the environment we live is pretty darn toxic, but you can eliminate those toxins with your lifestyle. And look at what she's done in 9 months. That's impressive. It really is. To cut all those in half. And you would have known that. You would have made, did you feel better through those 9 months? I'm curious.
I would say it took at least 6 or 7 to start feeling better. So let me tell you what I was feeling, and maybe that'll be helpful sometime, like just for people kind of, like putting yourself on a little bit of a scale, I guess. Yeah. Again, testing is really cool. I have a quiz in the book, and it goes through your energy levels, whether you've taken birth control, your cycle, and or is your cycle off, like all of these.
Can we do that today for them? Would you mind?
Sure. So, okay. And the reason it's so hard, because we have been like trained, okay, get through school, maybe get married, maybe whatever your path was, you probably had a little bit of an order. Maybe sometimes there's beautiful miracles that are not planned, tiny humans. But you may have had an order, and it's like, okay, don't get pregnant. Okay, I'm ready to get pregnant. And people are just, I'm ready to start a family. And that's kind of where I was at until I found out this information. I was like, whoa, I've got to detox. So, but I know not everybody's in that position. So that's why I built the quiz, because there's some simple things that I feel can wake us up a little bit. But what I will say about this test is, whether you have symptoms, like terrible symptoms, or no symptoms at all, this is a great place to start.
Well, wait, before you go to the quiz, how did you feel? We were starting that, and then I got her all over the place today, folks.
Sorry.
We are so excited about seeing each other in like a week that we probably should have started off being all goofy and silly, but we have a lot of fun together, and we got to keep it light, because as I said, this can get very depressing very fast. It gets to the point where you're like, I don't want to have a kid. Like, that's just too much. But, we all, like, that's the propagation of life. And not everybody has to choose to have children. I wasn't surprised to have Silas. I am surprised I have Silas. He was planned, but it was very late in my life I decided to have a child. And I think honestly, it was something in my nervous system that was like, I never wanted to have a kid because I felt very toxic. And it wasn't until I'd been in this industry for over 20 years that I finally was like, okay, I think I'm clean enough now. I won't give enough of my crap, both on the physical, emotional, and vibrational level to my child, that I feel like I can actually deal with whatever he's got going to have happen, he or she's going to have happen. So, we will stay focused here, and we will get her to tell us about how she felt a little bit through the process of those 9 months. And, because she's a healthcare practitioner, she lives this way. She gets adjusted all the time. Her husband's a chiropractor as well. She has a flow prezzo. She's got tools she's got the tools, but she still was dealing with symptoms because she was 3 years away from having a baby.
This brings up an amazing point, because I think so many people, we make that list and we're like, oh, no wonder I'm tired. No wonder I'm stressed. No wonder I'm feeling anxious. No wonder my cycle is off, because stress affects your cycle. And we just we check all these boxes like, oh, I know why I don't feel that way. But at the end of the day, our bodies were built to handle stress. And waking up on a day that I knew my body couldn't handle stress, and then and detoxing and healing, and then waking up today, I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel like myself today. It's amazing. You can do whatever you want. You can tackle the world. So let's dive into this. The point of this quiz, is what I'm trying to say, was to pull out these things that you may be experiencing that can give you an indication that, hey, you might need to detox. You might not be not healthy enough to grow a human. You could still probably grow a human, but healthy enough to really thrive through your pregnancy, thrive through the postpartum. And, okay.
How did you feel? Wait, she still hasn't answered the question. How did you feel 9 months throughout this time period when you were detoxing, before you show us the quiz?
Some days terrible. I have a history, though. I had a history of heavy metals. I had a history of cat scratch fever, which is typically like a Lyme, like a co-infection, just like Lyme. So fatigue. I mean, I literally would adjust in the morning, go home at lunch, crash, sleep, nap for an hour, and then drag myself up, put on a happy face, and go again for the afternoon.
That's what they want. That's what I wanted them to hear, that you were exhausted, you were functionable, but ill and exhausted, regardless of diagnosis.
Yeah.
Did you have brain fog?
Oh, it was so bad. I couldn't count backwards. If I had an interview with Kelly at 1 and it takes me 15 minutes to get there, and I need to prepare this, and I need to, I couldn't count backwards. It was silly little things like that. We all know can wreck your day.
Yeah. And how, were you sleeping?
I was sleeping all the time,
Okay.
all the time. And I have to say
restful sleep.
No, well, I mean, I would wake up and then 45 minutes later, I was ready to take a nap. So my cycle was always regular. Okay. However, I did a Dutch complete and looked at my hormones, and things were all kinds of out of whack. My progesterone was so low, I did not want to even grow a human at that point, because we know progesterone is needed to maintain a pregnancy. I mean, to be real raw here, I had terrible anxiety. I worried about everything. I fretted about everything. And it's so crazy how those little infections and just all that stuff, it will rise when your body is stressed, whether it's stressed with chemical things, physical things, or emotional things. I mean, I could even throw in here that I thought I was ready to grow a human in the spring of 2020, when the world went to I don't know, the toilet. Right. And I got so stressed. I did a Dutch panel a couple months after that, looking at my hormones again. They tanked. They totally flipped from where they were before, and they tanked. So, golly, it's just lesson after lesson after lesson. I feel like I have learned how the physical, the chemical, and the emotional components are so important. And that is why my favorite section in the book is the foundational strategies for health and healing. We go through the physical, which we talk a lot about the lymph, because I interviewed Kelly for the book. Talk about all the different ways they can work on that. We talk about chiropractic for your nervous system, for healing, not just growing a human, but then it's cool too when you have your baby. We talked about acupuncture. We talked about craniosacral therapy. and fascial release. And then we talked about the chemical things, right? Like the food, water, all those chemicals, but then also like nutrition components, like what do you need? And then the emotional section is, I mean, it's just huge. And now I'm rambling. So if you wanted to dive into this test.
No, that was great. Thank you for sharing. And I know that I didn't expect you to really talk about the anxiety, but I'm honored.
So let me say this. Yeah, it was because it was always something in my head, because number one, I'm a driver. Number two, I'm a healthcare provider and I take care of people. I was like, I don't have anxiety. Like, I'm not depressed. I'm not, no, I'm not accepting that, which is all great. But let me just tell you, I did go out and spend a couple days at the True Wellness Center. I worked with Kelly, I worked with her husband, Ian, worked with Sarah. Some things were torture. I'm just kidding. They weren't. Like, even the naso, like you learned, you learn to love it. But I think that one of the most powerful things, no offense to you, was the emotional release that I did with Ian. Yeah. And it's so amazing how things can get stuck in your body. And one of the things that was stuck was I had a really hard delivery with my son, Titus. And so again, oh my gosh, we didn't even talk about the hormones. We've got to talk about that. So
we will. I don't think we'll get there.
So, okay. So are you healthy enough to grow a human? Whether you're sick or not, just use this quiz to bring out information. Oh, where'd it go? Here we go. Okay. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Some people are just listening. So yeah.
Okay. So, for each question, there's going to be 5 different answers and you choose, I'll say number 1 and it's this, and then I'll say the one after it so you can remember and like write that down. So score yourself, excuse me, there's only 6 questions, but there's 5 responses to each one. Okay. So most days, number 1, I am fatigued and I get sick often. If that's you, write down 1. Number 2, I'm tired and depleted, but I have some good days. That's number 2. Number 3, half of the time I feel like myself, half of the time I don't. That's number 3. Number 4, I have more days feeling invincible and very few low energy days. That's number 4. Or 5, I am superwoman. I can do anything I want, anytime I want. That's number 5. So give yourself a score for number 1. Okay, the second one is about sleep. So number 1, I sleep restlessly, I wake up throughout the night, and I wake up tired. That's number 1. Number 2, I wake up in the night, but I go right back to sleep. That's number 2. Number 3, I sleep restlessly, but don't wake up. Number 3. Okay. So number 4 is most days I wake up rested. Some days I feel tired. Or are you a number 5 where you wake up rested and you're ready to go?
I'm taking the quiz too. This is fun.
Oh, good. So number 3 is about your energy. So number 1, it's hard to get off the couch. Number 1. Number 2, you have more bad days than good. That's number 2. Number 3, I am energized for basics, but not much past that. It's like, okay, I did the laundry and the dishes, check, and now I'm passed on the couch. Like, that's number 3. Number 4, most days I can be the Energizer bunny, the Energizer bunny, but I do have some rough days. That's number 4. Or number 5, I am the Energizer bunny. Okay, number 4 is about exercise. Number 1, I don't exercise, but when I do, it tanks me for the day. Number 2, I need a short rest and then I'm okay after I exercise. Number 3, exercise has no effect on the rest of my day. Number 4, exercise sometimes energizes me and sometimes it drains me. Number 5, exercise energizes me for the day. Okay, and this 5th section is about anxiety. 1, it's daily, constant, and debilitating. Number 2, it's constant, but I have some good days. Number 3, only specific situations cause anxiety. That would be number 3. Anxiety is occasional, but I can reframe and cope. That would be number 4. So write down a 4 if anxiety is occasional, but I can reframe and cope. And then give yourself a 5 if Hakuna Matata is your motto. It means no worries, right?
when I first saw the word, I couldn't tell what it was. I was like, what is that word? I've never seen that word.
You want me to sing
I've
the song for you?
Down. I've just never seen it written down. Yeah, it's great.
Okay, number 6 is about your cycle. Give yourself a number 1 if you are on a form of birth control or you have debilitating cramping, heavy flow, and PMS. Give yourself a 2 if your period is sporadic and you never know what to expect or when to expect it. Number 3, every couple of months, my period is on time, but with cramps and irritability. Number 4, my period is consistent, but I still have cramping and moodiness. Number 5, my period is very consistent, 5 days or less of bleeding and minimal PMS. And for the record, that would be a normal, healthy period, that it's constant, 5 days or less, and minimal PMS symptoms. Some people don't know what like a healthy period even looks like. Oh yeah.
I appreciate bringing that, because when people are like, oh, I have symptoms of menstruation, I'm like, the only symptom of menstruation you should have is that you're bleeding from your vagina. That's it.
Exactly.
The only symptom you should have. And trust me, I mean, if I had answered this quiz 25 years ago when I started this industry, I would have very different answers to today. But I did not know what a regular cycle was until I was like 30, I don't know, like 33 years old. And it's been super regular ever since. And the only symptom I have is bleeding. That's the only symptom you should. Oh, except the day before, I often find myself eating a burger and I'm like, oh, must be I'm getting my period tomorrow. Let me check my period tracker. Sure enough, I'm getting my period tomorrow because today is the day I want red meat. The only time I want red meat. But that's the only symptom I have is I probably have a little low iron.
So when we finish this quiz, make sure you reroute me back to that hormone piece. And everybody, this is so key. And obviously we're talking about how to grow a healthy human. We have to talk about your hormones. So I just want to revisit that like healthy period here in just a minute. Okay. So add up your score.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask you questions. And for every yes answer, you're going to subtract 1 point from your original score.
Okay. Cool.
So maybe this next section, just keep score of your yeses, just like a tally mark, and then we're going to subtract that from your score. So number 1, have you ever been diagnosed or suspected to have mononucleosis, mono or Epstein-Barr virus? 2, have you ever had a flu shot? If it's a yes, it's a point. Number 3, were you vaccinated as a child? Do you or did you ever have amalgam amalgam fillings, the silver ones in your mouth? Number 5, do you have any root canals? Number 6, do you use personal care products that contain sulfates and parabens? Number 7, have you taken any form of birth control? Any, the ring, the pill?
Shot.
Yeah.
The copper IUD even.
Yeah. Any of them. Because ultimately they affect your hormones, whether it is a hormone or isn't a hormone, they're affecting your hormones. That's the whole point of the game. Okay. Number 8, do you have difficulty handling stress? Like, yes, we're stressed all the time, but like, are you like max capacity there? Okay. Number 9, have you struggled to conceive or had a miscarriage? Number 10, have you been diagnosed or suspected to have Lyme's disease? Number 11, have you been diagnosed or suspected to have cancer? So add up your yeses. And then you're going to subtract them from the original score. And then of course it puts you in a little box. No, not really. But like I've done my best to really focus the toxicity levels, like high toxicity, moderate toxicity, and average toxicity. Hey, and if anybody wants to do this quiz, you can go to pregnancyprepchecklist.com. pregnancyprepchecklist.com. And then it'll give you again the toxicity score. And then there's a little video, and then there's some action steps afterwards if that's what you would appreciate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So much. And to her point, you have high, moderate, and average. So bottom line is, I've been doing dark field live blood microscopy for 15 years. And I made this comment to a client yesterday. Never, ever, ever, ever have I seen anybody's blood, regardless of their age, that doesn't have a heavy metal toxic load, that doesn't have some cell wall deficient bacteria. Never, ever, ever, ever in 15 years of looking at people's blood under a microscope have I ever seen anybody's blood with no toxicity. Never, not even my own child when he was 7 years old and he finally let me prick his finger. So, everybody has it. And it's a matter, is it high, moderate, or is it just average? And that's my job as the flow prezzo and the lip queen, is to make sure that we're draining out the toxins faster than they're coming in. Yeah. And to Dr. Allison's point, that our lifestyle is not bringing them into us as much as possible, so we don't have to drain them out, right? This is awesome, Dr. Allison. Thank you so much.
Good. Okay, can we dive back into that like normal healthy period?
Please do.
Okay, so this is probably what some of you have been really waiting for, and I'm about to blow your mind with a little piece of this. But I want to rattle this off. It doesn't matter if I stutter, say a word wrong, or if you have no idea what I'm saying. Is that okay if I just like rattle this off? This is the hormone dance that is required for your body during pregnancy. Okay, during pregnancy, to create a human, deliver a human. Okay, here's what happens to your hormones when you become pregnant. Estrogen stimulates ovulation, builds up the endometrium. The progesterone aids in implanting the egg into the endometrium and tells the body to stop menstruation. The HCG supports the development of the egg inside the ovary, supports the progesterone production.
Slow down.
Oh, the point was to like kind of like overwhelm you.
Okay, sorry.
Just to,
it's like, hard to hear. It's a little too fast to hear, so.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I actually was pretty impressed about my brain speed on this one. So it must be because all my pathways are open. Yeah. Okay. So HCG supports the development of the egg, supports progesterone production until the placenta is formed, right? And then the placenta takes over once implantation occurs. During the first trimester, estrogen climbs to signal organ development in the baby. Progesterone aids in protecting the endometrial lining. And reduce the rejection of the embryo, and it suppresses the uterine contractions. HCG saves the corpus luteum from involuting or shriveling, so it can continue to make progesterone. Bottom line, estrogen, progesterone, HCG, there's this dance going on. Like there's amazing, important things. And if your body does not have the energy that it needs to do these things, you're going to struggle. And so what was really beautiful, and I interviewed Dr. Debbie Rice, who is the one of the assistant medical director at the Dutch, at Precision Labs, which is where we order the Dutch complete tests. And she explained it beautifully, that, okay, you've got your trimesters when you're pregnant, first, second, and third trimester, right? Well, what about the 0 trimester? This prep work that you do, like what your hormones look like before you get pregnant, is going to determine, yes, your pregnancy trimester 1, 2, and 3, but also it will very, very much impact your 4th trimester or your postpartum period. Okay. So let's say you were going through the period, or the menstrual, section of the quiz, and you're like, oh, well, I thought I was regular because I was on a birth control. Well, by the time you get off of birth control, you don't know what kind of rebound your hormones are going to have. So again, the proper testing, like not just blood work, you need to do something like a 24-hour dried urine. But it's so important to know what your hormones look like before you get pregnant, because I will tell you, I did not know this before Titus. And although I had a regular period, I can guess things were off, because man, I was sick as a dog, and everyone, what do they blame? It doesn't matter what's going on. You're so nauseous. Oh yeah, it's your hormones. Oh, acid reflux. Oh, it's your hormones. Oh, swelling in my legs. Oh, it's your hormone. Like, we know it's our hormones. So now, man, I just got fired up to figure out, okay, but what are we going to do about that? Well, you can't do a lot of things that you can if you are pregnant. You can't, can you say that the right way?
Yeah. There's a lot of things you can do, but because you're pregnant, you can't do them then.
Thank you. But then I knew you could translate that, and I was already on the next thought, but the postpartum period, holy crap, that smacked me in the face. I had no idea that my adrenals were so stressed, to the point that, I carried my son to 44 weeks. And then I never ended up dilating. I mean, we ended up having to go to the hospital and Pitocin, and dear God, that's terrible. And we ended up with a cesarean and a healthy 10-pound baby. It's so great. But my recovery, girl, I'm telling you, if I did 20 squats in the kitchen just to make the little boy laugh, my milk production dropped for the next day. That's how like taxed my adrenals were. And I know for a fact it was that I didn't know what my hormones looked like before I got pregnant. The pregnancy was rough, and the postpartum, I mean, the anxiety, no, I didn't accept the, the depression, and that, you almost don't admit it, but holy crap, did I have to work hard to function for multiple reasons. So bottom line, and that overwhelming blurb of estrogen, progesterone, and is like, we need to give our hormones some respect. We need to be like, you do so much for us. Let's test them properly and get a good idea of what is a healthy period, so that we can have an understanding. Like, this is not just about, hey, can I get pregnant and maintain a pregnancy? It's, what are you going to feel like for your baby's first year of life? Like, this is where I feel like it's a gift to myself. Yeah, it's all about the baby and this and that, but like, really a gift to myself. Okay, that was a lot there.
No, it's the point that I think Dr. Allison has made so directly and over the top is that our toxic environment and our toxic exposures are directly impacting our hormones. And it's not the hormones that are the problem. That we walk into so many integrative functional docs who go, oh, you have a hormonal problem, go on bioidentical hormones. But that's still not getting to the underlying cause of what's causing your hormone to be off. And what's causing your hormone to be off are hormone disruptors, such as heavy metals and plastics and phenol fillings and water, the chemicals in the water in the food. This is how we need to change our life so we're not disrupting our hormones, so that, listen, I'll just speak to my own case for a second. Like, I never had a regular cycle. I was on birth control pill for, I don't know, from like 17 because of acne, because I had such bad acne that they're like, oh, go on the birth control pill. So I did until I was like 21 years old. So like for 4 years I was on it, and I got off of it and my cycle was still irregular. And then it was right after the car accident. When I was 20, at 20 years and 2 weeks, I started getting ovarian cysts a month after the car accident. And I had 30 ovarian cysts burst in 10 years, and I had the most irregular cycle. And then I found an acupuncturist who, if I did acupuncture every month, I got a regular cycle. And then 1 month I had 3 cysts burst, and I was like, this isn't working. What else is there? And so that was, at that point, I was in biological medicine. We treated my scar, and literally the day we treated my scar, my hormones started to regulate.
That's amazing.
Well, I had done a lot of other things up to then. I had cleaned up my diet. I had done my one filling that I had for only 5 years, pulled that out. My mother is full still to this day of amalgam filling. So I absorbed a lot of her toxins and her mother's toxins and her mother's, both, like she said, 4 generations. But at 38 years old, when I said to my husband, oh, I want to get pregnant, most women would be like, well, I don't know if I even can get pregnant. There was no doubt in my mind that I could get pregnant because I was so darn regular. There were some emotional issues. I had to get married before I get pregnant. I had to do some other things. But once we got pregnant, the pregnancy was easy. The birth wasn't so easy. 4 days was a little rough, but he came out, and I gained weight. I was just telling your friend this. I gained 50 pounds in that pregnancy. And then you should lose weight when you start breastfeeding. And I gained more weight. And it was a struggle for me. I think it turned on my EBV. But bottom line was, I regulated my hormones back. And now I'm 47 years old. And my hormones are perfect. And I know that evident by the test she just gave me. I still have an average toxicity level based upon that. I scored 24, and that's because I was vaccinated as a child and I took birth control pills. And I had an amalgam filling. Those were the things that I had to take. Oh, and I do believe I have EBV based upon all of my world. But, I've accommodated for those. And now I am 47 years old. I'm like, please, dear God, don't let me get pregnant, because I know my hormones were so ready, and I am so not ready. And if that is the will, it will be. That being said, like, neither one of us is ready to have another kid. We are happy with our puppy and our child, but it's like, I know my body's ready for that, and it'll probably be ready for that for another 20 years, in all honesty.
That's something, like, can we tap on that for just a second? Because we're made to have babies until we stop having a period. And I mentioned to someone, it's been months now, but hey, pregnant, and they're like, oh, well, is it a high risk? Because, how old are you? Aren't you like 38? I mean, I'm about to be 38. And it's like it's implanted in people's brain if you're older than 34 or 35, that it is high risk. But we don't believe that that's true. Well, I don't know, for the standard person that's not doing anything for their health and healing and things like that, then maybe that's possible. But one thing that I tried really hard to do in the book, and I thought you just brought up just a really great point, is like we want to give those people hope, like that have had, like you said, you had so many cysts, that pain was terrible. But I can tell you like one amazing story. I had a young lady that I've been taking care of. She was going through a detox program. We're working on all kinds of aspects. I mean, emotional, chemical, and physical. And she has been bleeding since January. In her OB, like she's had 2 ablations. The OB's like, I don't know, we should just do a hysterectomy. She's 27. 30 days working together. She had her first regular period. 60 days, the next one, there was no PMS, there was no extra bleeding. So the point is, if you've got PCOS or endometriosis or ovarian cysts, it may take a little longer to get pregnant, but we do have amazing tools that we can implement. And I mean, you'll surprise yourself. Like picture your best self, fully healthy every day. Just continue picturing that, plug these tools in, go see Kelly and Ian, go hang out at the center and get
Dr. Allison's book so that you know how to do this.
Yeah. So, that was my really big goal. And then at the end of the book, we do invite, like I've built a course and a membership program to walk people through, hey, this is the test, you can click here, you can order the test for yourself, or you can coach with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, just another story, we had a client walk in at 32 years old with premature menopause. She'd had 1 child and she wanted to have another child. And Michael he's about 8 months younger than Silas, her second. And it took us about 6 months. She had a silver filling, got it out. She got her period 6 months in a row, got pregnant. And now her youngest is like 7, 8 years old. So
I've seen a lot more of the premenopause, like
premature menopause at 32 years old. And they were just like, oh yeah, you're okay. And she was like, what? 32, and I would say, I said that same thing to her. Hopefully she doesn't, I'm not breaking confidence here, but they're just now, she's, I don't know, maybe 40, 41, 42, I don't know, somewhere in that vicinity. And they're like, oh yeah, you're just going back into menopause. And I was like, no, that means your lymph is clogged and we're not waiting for you to get ill. We got to work your lymph because you need to get your period again because you're only 42. And, most women should be able, as you said, to have pregnancies, it's even hard for me to say, into their 50s. And like, I'm not saying my anatomy wants to do that again. I from my down here doesn't want to do that again because I had natural childbirth. And I was like, oh, I see why women want to do this when you're younger. You have a little more elasticity and a little bit more going on there. But bottom line is you can recover that too. I mean, it took a little bit more work on my pelvic floor and I still work on it at times, but
yeah, my favorite thing that my mom said to me, because I had a 10-pound baby, was and it was a cesarean. She's like, well, I pushed an 11-pound baby out my vagina, but I was 10 years younger than you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, it does change. Like,
it does. And so but the point is, regardless of your age, regardless of what's going on, there is certainly actionable steps. This isn't just hope. This is move forward. We just tell you stories of actual things that have happened in our clinics so that you understand you are not alone.
Yeah.
This is not unusual what you're going through. We live in an environment where people are becoming more sterile, not more fertile, yet we seem to have some secrets, particularly Dr. Allison with her book, to teach you how to become more fertile, which is awesome. And thank you so much. I know how much effort it was for you to write that book. And here you are today on our podcast, giving a little bit of this information out. And we so appreciate that. But please support Dr. Allison and her efforts to help educate the world, and go purchase her book and share it with people. And she has an electronic version as well. And, it's just so fabulous to have this information, because growing healthy humans is what we should all be thinking about, regardless if you want to get pregnant as well, because we want to all be healthy humans. And I'll never forget when I first started to read, what's that stupid book that's the bestseller that I read was How to.
Oh, What to Expect When You're Expecting.
And I started reading it and I stuck my tongue out just now for those of you. And I was like, okay, so now you're supposed to stop using a microwave. So now you're supposed to eat organic. So now you're supposed to do all these things. And I was like, this book is pissing me off because you should be doing these things way before you get pregnant. I was given like 3 copies of it as soon as I got pregnant by my friends and my family that were concerned that I was quote unquote high risk. And I looked at this book and was like, y'all, I've been living this way for 23 years. This is crap. And they were all nervous. I was having this baby, this medical condition in my own home. And what was I thinking at 39 years old by the time he was birthed? Just you and I are there? Well, no, we got a midwife. She's done it before for 35 years. She knows what she's doing, and healthy, happy human in our home, and no harm, no foul. Like, it's all good. And we pray for all of you from our hearts that that's exactly what you get. So what's this biggest secret you've learned in all the research of the book? I have a feeling it has to do something with hormones, but what's the secret that you've learned through all of writing this book? Because we always learn more when we teach. The one takeaway.
So I asked, and this is the last chapter in the book, but I asked my midwife, I said, hey, what is the one thing, like you see women all the time, like what is the biggest factor that you see? And she said, I see unhealthy people deliver babies, people that don't eat well, eat like all of these things. She said, I think the most important thing when you're ready to grow a human and throughout the pregnancy, postpartum, she said, is joy and gratitude. And I think what's really powerful, just like I talked just briefly about how like stress tanked my hormones and stress does this and stress does that. I do think that it's so powerful, our emotions. And when you have joy and gratitude, it raises your frequency to a level that really, I think you can overcome anything. And I'm going to throw love in there too. Like that was a really cool thing with some tapping that I learned. And as because, maybe I didn't get all the metal out, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. And it's not just all the box to check. And especially if you're type A and you have to like get it all right and get it all perfect. At the end of the day, make sure you are practicing your joy, your gratitude, and then, oh man, love covers a multitude of things. So.
Wow. Truly from our hearts to yours. I completely agree with that. And I said to Silas the other day, are you giving me attitude or gratitude? Because the universe, and he's gonna be so pissed that I share that with everybody. I hope everybody makes that the thing.
Yeah, I'm going to do it too.
And, I was bending over backwards so he could do certain things on this particular Sunday. And I picked him up from the party that he was at. And I was like, he gets in the car and I go, Silas, really? Attitude or gratitude? I will give back to you whatever you give to me. And the universe does the same, right? God, love, we give out. And regardless, like she said, of all the things, you can do all the right things. The biggest thing you can do is in your heart, ask for that human and tell that human that you are ready to receive them. You are ready to help them grow. You are ready to help them, guide them through this wonderful world that we get to experience in this playland. And that's why Dr. Allison and I started this off with a lot of fun and joy, because we knew that some of this was going to be like, there's a lot to overcome. But the reality is you can overcome everything with love, as Dr. Allison has put so eloquently. Thank you for your time. We know this was a little bit longer podcast, but there was so much chock full information in here. And please share this with all your friends that are even thinking about getting pregnant, have been pregnant, now have 14 kids and want to clean up their environment. It doesn't matter the time that you receive this message. It's the perfect time. And we so appreciate everybody's time and attention, as you always give the beats. We really do. And all your comments are so welcome. And please, we have your notes here where you can find Dr. Allison and find her book. And thank you all. And thank you so much again, Dr. Allison.
Thank you very much for your time and for everything you're doing.
Hello, and thank you so much for joining us and spending your time here with us at The Beats with your host, Kelly Kennedy. And I know today more than ever before, you now know better how your body works. And at the very least, we hope we've helped you raise some questions and help you continue to investigate. We are here to help you naturally optimize a better version and vision of yourself on every single level. And after today, you can better engage your innate intelligence and allow for proper regulation and proper regeneration. Make sure to subscribe to never miss a beat again. We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. And just a reminder that this podcast is for educational purposes only. This podcast is not a substitute for medical advice or professional advice and care by your doctor or other qualified medical professionals. This podcast is created with the intention to provide information and education. This podcast is created with the understanding that it does not constitute professional advice or medical services. If you are looking for help in your journey and seek a qualified medical practitioner, or if you're looking for a biological, not meds practitioner, we can help you. Someone who's trained and a licensed health coach and someone that can help you make changes, especially when it comes to your health. That's what Not Meds mission is about. I hope you have enjoyed listening again to this podcast. It's one of my favorite things to do. And if you do, please feel free to share it with your friends, your colleagues, for the tips of living the biological foundational life and living in the flow. And if you have been listening and love the show, please do leave comments. We love reading your comments. We really do. And you can subscribe to us wherever you hear your podcast. Thank you so much from our heart to yours.